I recently gave a keynote to 400 leaders, and I packed up all my stuff, and as I was walking out of the hotel, some voice from right outside the lobby goes, "What's the capital of Chad?" And I'm like, what? What's the capital of Chad? And I realized he's looking right at me. And then I realized I have my name tag on that says Chad Littlefield, and Chad is really big. It was the bellhop named Samuel who recognized there's a country in Africa named Chad, and he was starting a conversation from 50 feet away from me in this really funny, playful way, which as soon as I realized I had a name tag on, felt totally appropriate and totally safe. And so I think both a funny way to start a conversation and a beautiful and potentially connecting way to start a conversation is to just notice, pay attention to what someone is wearing, carrying, sharing, presenting, because chances are when they got dressed that day or when they're carrying their thing, they knew they were going to go out in public, and so the conversation's already been started. There's all sorts of necklaces and jewelry and hats and t-shirts that say things, and so a really playful way to start a conversation is to make some comment in the form of a question about something that is in your shared environment and context. So 2 more examples. One where I totally failed at trying to do this, and then one that worked out pretty well. This image, right, actually was the result of this crazy story. And so I'm on this packed bus that is dead silent, and I was just struck at like how interesting that there's like 50 people with lifetimes of ungoogleable experience and just no words being exchanged. And this is normal, right? It's like every New York City sub. But I just challenged myself, like, can I break that at all? And there was a guy next to me who had a hat that said the Jason Project. And I just turned down and took a social risk, and I was like, the Jason Project, like, what's that all about? This guy, who was about 70 years old, lit up like a light bulb, like I flipped a switch on his brain. And he's just unpacking all this info about the Jason Project and how he worked with Robert Ballard, the guy who discovered the Titanic. And it turns out he was on he's a refractory nature photographer, and so that image behind me, he ended up sending to me as a Christmas gift after this meeting, after a 5-minute conversation, because I asked him about his hat. And it created this really meaningful connection. Now, that was a success. Check out this failure. At the same conference where I met Samuel, the bellhop, who asked me the capital of Chad, I'm on my way. I was on the 24th floor, coming down to the 2nd floor to give my keynote. So I'm leaving my room, coming down to give my keynote, and there's 3 people in the elevator with me, all with the conference badge. And I thought the person next to me looked really familiar. I thought I might have like seen them at a past event or something. And so I'm standing in the elevator like this. And so I bend down like this to look at their name tag in this like kind of playful way. And she looks at me like I am an absolute psychopath. I realize when I see her name tag, she's not the person I thought she was. And so here's me being curious, trying to practice the advice I'm sharing with you in this video, and totally flopping. Now, here's my learning. My late co-founder said that, told me once that it can't count as a failure if you learn something from it. And so my learning from that is, I took a social risk. It totally didn't work out. I did not build a relationship of trust or start a conversation. And that person probably left thinking I was crazy and then realized I was the keynote speaker a half hour later. But really, the actual impact of that was like just next to 0. And I think sometimes when we think about, and you're Googling funny ways to start a conversation, or you want to know how to start conversations, we build the perceived risk of starting a conversation is so high, when in actuality, the repercussion is like it doesn't turn into a conversation and life goes on and no one cares. That's like the most likely failure outcome. And yet, I think the world is generally walking around with a pretty strong desire to be seen, heard, and understood. And so just about any attempt to start a conversation that's well-intentioned, I think can turn into something really beautiful. You just have to actually take the social risk. I'm Chad. Have an awesome day. If you want more, I wrote a book called Ask Powerful Questions with my co-founder, Will Wise, and you might really like it if you like this video.